Kalala Yahweh. Bo Shuma Mashak Yahweh. Shema Yahweh Yahweh Allah Yanaba Kodabo Mashbaka. Shalom. May peace, serenity, and prosperity be multiplied unto you all. All right. So we're going to address an elephant in the room. We are going to address an elephant in the room. Now, it's already know that a grand awakening is happening among the Israelites. The Israelites are waking up and knowing who they truly are. However, you do have 2/3, right? The 2/3 Israelites, and you also have many Gentiles who are listening to the awakened prophets, the prophets of Yasharallah. And as they're listening, they're taking notes, they're learning, and then they're taking what they're learning from us and inserting it into their Nicolaitan doctrine. Oh yeah, that's what they're doing. They're either doing it by mixing it with other ideologies, right? New Age spiritualism. You got many who are listening to us and blending that in with esoteric knowledge. And then you have those who listen to us and insert it into the doctrine of the Nicolaitans while they still promote and worship the false image of the Messiah. They still promote and advocate Caesar Borgia. They still promote and advocate the heathenish supremacy that comes along with that image. Yet they listen to us, take notes and learn, and falsely claim that that knowledge comes from that idol. That idol that is known to the world as white Jesus, right? Caesar Borgia. Then you have others who just like to learn it, like to learn the information, but they don't put any of it into the practice of their life, right? They honor the Messiah with their lips, but their works show something completely different. So we're going to get into a biblical breakdown of this stance, right? This practice that is happening this very instant. Pretty sure there's some lurker who's doing that same thing. This is a woe unto you all. Yes, this is a woe unto you all. Now, I would make it a sharp rebuke or an open rebuke. However, you're rebuking yourself if you're one of these individuals that have been described. So in Matthew chapter 7, Yahweh tells us in verse 13 to enter in at the straight gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. So all of the different scenarios I described with somebody who is listening to the prophets and converting that knowledge into their own profaneness through idolatry and other forbidden forms of knowledge or doctrine, they are going the broad way. They are going the wide way along with the rest of the world. And we see here in Matthew 7:13 that broad and wide way leads to destruction. So it's a path to destruction to do so. And many there be that go in thereat. Many, many. You know, verse 14 reads, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Few there be that find it. Now, with that being said, we're going to get further context to this, right? And take it here to John chapter 10, verse 1, which reads, verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. So Yahushua has called all you individuals who are doing what has been previously described as listening in, learning from us, and then mixing it in with your profane doctrine, right? The doctrine that goes against the prophets, the doctrine that goes against the Israelites, whatever doctrine that may be. There's many doctrines that do. So if you're taking this information, you're learning from us, and then you're going back and you're filtering that knowledge through such profane doctrines, you're going another way. You're climbing up some other way, as Yahushua stated here in John chapter 10, verse 1. And he also labeled you all a thief and a robber. So you're stealing. You're stealing. And if you're stealing, you're breaking one of the most basic commandments. Exodus chapter 20, verse 15. Thou shalt not steal. So all you all who are doing that, you're learning from the prophets, but you're pushing Caesar Borgia. You're pushing the name Jesus, right? You're not filtering it through the Lashawan Kodash. You're speaking Yiddish. You prefer to use Greek. You're not telling the true 100% truth on who the Messiah is. You know, his existence as a Hebrew when he walked in the earth, not his existence as a Greek, as his translation states. The translation of his name states is in Greek. You're going another way. And you're stealing from Yasharala. Now, if you're a babe and you're sincere and you're building your way up to really learning the Lashawan Kodash, you know, Yahweh winks at our ignorance. He winks at that. He winks at our ignorance. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Salakia. Let's see if I can find that. I don't remember the book, chapter, and verse of that. Here we go. Acts 17:30. I don't know why I couldn't remember the book, chapter, and verse, but we found it. This is Acts chapter 17, verse 30. And the times of this ignorance, the Most High winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. So as an Israelite, you learn that you're an Israelite, yet you refuse to call the Father and the Son by the language that is of his people, that has been reclaimed by us. You're not repentant. You're not being repentant. And the times you were using the heathen translations of the Messiah and the Father, the Most High winked at that, because at one point in time we all did, right? Every Israelite professing the truth now once were using the heathen translations of the Father and the Son. But once you become into the truth and you learn, you repent of that, and you call them by the native tongue. Because we know Yahushua, the Messiah, who the world calls Jesus, was a Hebrew. He wasn't a Greek. But nonetheless, I'm not going to get too far into the name, because that's a minute problem here compared to what is being brought to light on stealing this information and filtering it through another doctrine. Because there's plenty Christians regurgitating the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that we put out for edification. They're regurgitating it. And years ago, 10, 20 years ago, they weren't speaking nothing like this. I will go as far as to say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, even in 2020, they weren't speaking this information that they're speaking now, that aligns to what the prophets of Yasharallah have been advocating. And those same Christians don't want to give the credit where credit's due. And that's how we know they come up another way, as stated in John chapter 10, verse 1. Let's go back to the book of Matthew. Okay. We're going to go back, Salakia. We're going to go back to the notes taken. And we're going to see where this attitude comes from. They are doing sorcery. These individuals are actually doing sorcery. Mashbaka. They're doing sorcery. And we learned that here in Acts chapter 8, verses 9 through 11. As it reads, "But there was a certain man called Simon, which before time in the same city used sorcery and bewitched the people of Samaria, giving out that himself was some great one." So that's exactly what these individuals are doing, who learn from the prophets of Yasharallah. Take that information and filter it through another doctrine, right? More chiefly the Nicolaitan doctrine. Verse 10, "To whom they all gave heed, from the least to the greatest, saying, This man is the great power of the Most High." So that's the same type of glory these individuals seek after or get accredited for by the eyes that take heed to them and learn from them through their doctrines. But they're doing nothing but stealing, as Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua has stated in John chapter 10, verse 1. They're the same as a thief and a robber because they climb up another way. Verse 11, "And to him they had regard because that of long time he had bewitched them with sorceries." So yeah, that's exactly what these individuals are doing. They're working witchcraft and sorcery. Listening to us here in Yasharallah, taking that information, taking notes, and regurgitating such information through unqualified doctrines that the Most High isn't really dealing with. Because those same doctrines are rebellious against the prophets of Yasharallah. And we see that here in Salakia, in 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 23. As it reads, "For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of Yahweh, he has also rejected thee from being king." 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 23. Now, after going into that, Yahweh furthermore tells us in verse 15, "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves." So everybody described who come up another way, who regurgitate this information and filter it through other doctrines, they are the false prophets who come as sheep clothing but are ravening wolves inwardly. Now, Yahweh states an indicator on how you know who these false prophets are. In verse 16, "Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles?" So in this parable, Yahweh compares their works not meeting up with what they're preaching by comparing the uncommon or unrealistic sight of grapes coming with thorns and figs coming from thistles. We know that grapes don't have thorns on them. We know figs don't have thistles on them neither. They don't come from thistles. Figs come from trees. Grapes don't come from thorns. They come from vines. Verse 17. Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. And we know such a strategy that has been described is an evil fruit because it is an act of stealing. The same as a thief or a robber, as stated in John chapter 10, verse 1. Verse 18, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. There we have it. You have it right there. Verse 19, every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. So if you're bringing corrupt fruit, you're eventually going to be destroyed. So that's why this is a woe to everybody who is practicing such sorcery. That's why this is a woe. You're learning this information, this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that was provided to us by Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai's dealings with us. And you're taking such information and edification and filtering it through a profane doctrine that is not approved of Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai. It is indeed bad fruit. Verse 20. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. So Yahweh Shai states, look at their actions. Don't worry about what they're saying. Look at their actions. And then he goes into further context here in verse 21. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. So many people are crying out, Lord, 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 Lord this, Lord that, Lord this, Lord that. And Yahweh Shai says they're not all going to make it into the Shamayam. Verse 22, he states, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works. So this also goes into the false prophets of Yasharallah, because there's many of them too. There's many false prophets of Yasharallah who are calling on the names, right, that I mentioned earlier, but they're wicked as hell inwardly. They're ravening wolves inwardly. They have ulterior motives inwardly when it comes to the words that they're preaching. Their mind is focused on mammon. Their mind is focused on money and other things of idolatrous natures while they're professing the name Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. You have them too. They fall into the 2/3 category as well. Verse 23. And then what I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. So everything contrary to the pure knowledge, wisdom, and understanding provided by the prophets of Yasharallah, even the attitudes against the prophets of Yasharallah, are works of iniquity. Verse 24. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken them unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. So that means you're going to be on a stable foundation, right? You're going to be on firm ground. You're going to have support. You will be supported. Verse 25. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And we know that Yahweh Shai is our rock. So he's that foundation of rock. Verse 26. And everyone that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. So they don't have a firm foundation. Those who decide to go another way, those who decide to steal this information, right? Learn over here and then filter that information through a profane doctrine, as if that doctrine taught you the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you regurgitated. Verse 27, and the rain descended and the floods came and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. And it came to pass when Yahushua had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine. For he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. May peace, serenity, and prosperity be multiplied unto you all. Shalom.